want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day, my book, The Mirror of Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you. Sound check 1 2 1 2. You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. This is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, including you, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And what we do is put all this together into one bundle, and what you get is a philosophy, a mindset, a method, a show, a book known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic, we are talking the 4 steps of effort. We all know what effort is, right? I'll give you the definition. It is a vigorous or determined attempt at whatever you're going to put that effort into, a vigorous or determined attempt. But understand that there are levels. There's levels to this shit when it comes to giving effort. Just because you are giving an effort towards something doesn't mean you're on the same level as someone else who is giving effort. I'm sure in your life you have been around people who were giving, you were giving effort, they were giving effort, but either you or them was giving a considerably different level of effort. And it was obvious. It was obvious to you. It was obvious to that person. It was obvious to anyone who was watching you, or maybe anyone who was a recipient, or whatever you were giving that effort towards, whatever you were attempting to do vigorously or in a determined fashion, or maybe not so vigorously, maybe in a not so determined fashion. Maybe that's what made it obvious for other people. But understand there is levels to this shit when it comes to giving effort. And you need to understand these levels as part of your discipline development. Which is, by the way, in case you didn't know, your development of discipline is an ongoing process. It's not something that you just get disciplined one time, then you're good and you never had to do anything else and it's just with you for the rest of your life. The same thing with confidence. It's an ongoing thing. It's a renewable resource. It's just like paying rent or paying for your car insurance or going to the gym or taking a shower or eating food. These are things that you don't just do one time. You do them over and over and over again in order to maintain that thing, whatever it is you're putting that payment in to get. You got to keep putting that payment in order to keep having that thing. You stop paying and you stop having it. So today we're talking the 4 steps of effort. Let's get into it. Point number 1. Today's topic, again, the 4 steps of effort. 4 steps of effort. The first thing you got to do, you got to try. In order to do anything, to put a determined attempt in at anything, you have to have the courage, have the energy, have the personal initiative, have the wherewithal. You have to have the idea, the notion to actually try the thing. You can't achieve anything in any area of life if you don't begin with some level of effort. All right. And that means trying even if or when you don't know what you're doing. Maybe you don't know how things are going to work out. Maybe you have no idea whatsoever what the hell is going on. But unless you give that effort, until you give that effort, it's impossible for you to achieve. The first step towards achievement is you have to actually make the decision and move yourself towards some type of action. Many people, especially in this age of amateur broadcasting, where everyone can broadcast whatever they want and anyone can pretty much see anything that you broadcast if you broadcast it publicly, a lot of people don't want to go through the trying stage of effort. A lot of people don't want to go through stage 1 because, harkening back to the 6 basic fears that human beings have, a lot of people don't want to be criticized. A lot of people don't want to be publicly ridiculed. A lot of people don't want to show themselves being anything less than spectacular, anything less than great in front of a large audience of people. So many people never even step into stage 1, this trying stage, because they don't want to look a certain way in front of other people, even though for the most part, if you're in this trying stage, for the most part, people are not going to pay that much attention to you anyway, because you're not good. And if you're not very good, you may not have a large audience of people paying attention to anything that you're doing. And if you're not good at that thing, unless you happen to be famous for something else, people are not checking for you anyway. So a lot of people avoid this trying stage because they don't want to look bad in front of an audience. But the thing is, they don't even have an audience to look bad in front of anyway. So this is how a lot of people kind of shoot themselves in the foot without a gun, if that makes sense. They don't want to look a certain way in front of others. But understand that you can never get to the 2nd, 3rd, or the 10th levels of effort without passing through the first floor. I mean, if you are trying to get to the 10th floor of a building and there's no elevator and you're not flying on a helicopter, then you have to go through the first floor in order to get to the second, third, and the fourth floor. You got to go up the first flight of steps to get to the 5th flight of stairs. So this tri-stage is where you begin anything. What's the last thing that you thought about doing that, or maybe something that you're thinking about doing right now, you haven't done it yet, maybe you haven't begun it yet, and the reason why is because you don't want to go through this trying phase. And oftentimes, sometimes even when people who have achieved a certain level of success in some area of life, they are reluctant to go through the first stage, this trying phase, because they know what it feels like to be at the higher stages of effort, the levels where maybe things start to get easy, where you get into a state of flow, where things are just working for you. You have some momentum going and you have a track record of success. So people may know you as a success in this specific area, and some people don't want to go back to the bottom, back to the ground floor of a different building and start all over from zero, because they're used to being at the top of a building. They're used to being at the top floor. They don't want to go back to the bottom floor. They don't want to humble themselves and work themselves back from zero all over again. This is what happens to a lot of people when they're considering maybe switching careers, switching industries, maybe even switching companies, because if you go somewhere else, you may have to start at a lower level than what you are used to from your previous place. And some people just don't want to go through that. Their ego will not allow them to go back to, quote, the bottom, close quote, or anything less than what they're already used to. So this is how someone could be in one industry for 20 years, and then when it's time for them to move to a different industry for whatever reason, whether they chose to or they're thinking about choosing to, or they've been forced out, few people ever, let me say this right, rarely does someone reach the heights, the top heights of one industry and then reach the top heights of another industry, not because there's nobody out there who has more than one skill. All of us have more than one skill. All of us have the capacity to be great in more than one thing. Maybe not at the same time, but in the lifespan of our time here on earth, we all have the capacity to do that. Many people don't do it simply because they know what it took to get from 0 to 100 in one space. They don't want to do that all over again to get from 0 to 100 in another space. But understand, the only way you can get to 100 is you got to start at 0. Point number 2. Today's topic is the 4 levels of effort. Yes, there's levels to this effort game. If you didn't know, today you will know. Point number 2. After you've tried something, now you've gone through the trying phase, maybe you're still in it, now you got to be bad at what you're doing. The second level of effort is you are trying, you're still trying, this is still going on, so you don't end the trying phase, but while you're trying, you're probably going to be pretty bad at what you're doing. So unless you are a supremely talented or an incredibly lucky individual, when you are just starting out at something, you're trying it, you will probably suck. You'll probably be garbage. You'll probably be not worth watching. Unless you are already known from somewhere else, you will probably be not noteworthy, meaning no one's going to be making notes about you. No one's going to remark about you. No one's going to comment on you. No one's going to talk about you, because there's nothing interesting about what you're doing, unless you are just so terrible that it's no comic relief for some people. But other than that, you're not going to be worth watching. You will suck. And this is all right. It's okay to be garbage at what you're doing, because anyone who has ever become notable at what they do, they started somewhere, at which point they were probably not so good. Definitely not good compared to how they are now, even if they started out very talented. When I started out in basketball, I was garbage. That's the way we describe players where I'm from in Philadelphia. If you're not good, we say that you're garbage. So I was garbage in basketball, and I had to keep working on my game. I had to keep trying. Eventually, I got to the point where I got to the next level, which I'll tell you about in a moment. But I had to go through this being bad phase where I kept trying and I was bad. So I'm going through phases 1 and 2 at the same time. I'm trying, but I'm bad the whole time. You got to go through this phase in order to get to this next phase. And if you're unwilling to go through this because, again, your ego is fragile and you don't want to, or your ego is fragile, you are experiencing one of the 6 basic human fears, and specifically the fear of criticism, or the fear of a loss of love, which is another one of the 6 basic fears that Napoleon Hill laid out in Think and Grow Rich. If you have one of these fears controlling you, and I did an episode on how to not allow fear to control you and how to diagnose if it is controlling you, so go into the game group in the archive of the show. You can access that. That's at workonmygame.com/game group if you are a member. If you're a member, you have a link directly into it, but if you're not, that's the link to get into it. And having this fear of people not liking you, or the fear of being a social pariah, or the fear of being criticized or ridiculed by other people. This stops a whole lot of people from even beginning things. It stops a whole lot of people from taking any action simply because everybody wants to make themselves look like they're a star, make themselves look like everything's working, make themselves look like everything's good, that everything's flawless, that they woke up like this, that everything is always working in their favor. That's the reason why I brought up the fact that we're in this age of everyone being able to broadcast themselves, because most of us, as the saying goes, we like to show our highlight reels, while all of us at the same time, we show our highlight reels and we see everyone else's highlight reel, but we see our own B-roll. We see our own cutting room. We see the 24 hours of us, and everything ain't a highlight, but we see the 2-minute highlights from everybody else. And this is what we're all doing. We are all guilty of this, posting our highlights, the things that make us look good. But we know that there's a whole lot of other stuff going on the other 23 hours and 58 minutes of the day that people don't know about. And then when we look at other people, we can't see through to those 23 hours, 58 minutes. We can only go off the 2 minutes that they show, the highlights that they show. So we're all guilty of it, and we're all susceptible to it at the exact same time. So if you don't want to go through this being bad phase, it's going to be really hard for you to get to being anything else. Actually, it will be impossible for you to get through to doing anything else. All these phases must be passed through, and you may have to start over at times and go back to the beginning and do them all over again if you find that there's some changes that need to be made. So this thing is, in this era of broadcasting, we rarely see this being bad stage in a whole lot of people. A lot of people aren't broadcasting the fact that they're bad at what they're doing when they're in this stage. All we see is their finished products. Then we are comparing ourselves at our bad stage to someone else at their finished stage. And the more you do this, the worse you're going to feel about yourself. So here's my advice. Stop doing this. Stop comparing your bad to someone else's polished. Embrace the fact that you are not good at what you're doing, right? At least for now, on your way to becoming something better than not good. You're getting past this. You're putting in the work. You're working on your game. You're enacting the discipline. You're showing up every single day to do the work. Eventually, you'll be better than this bad phase that you're in. If you want to have a nice lawn in front of your house, first you got to let the grass grow. The grass must grow first, and it may look a little bit ugly, but then you cut the grass. And until the grass grows, you can't really trim it and get it to look the way that you want it to look. That's just the way that it works. You got to go through the bad phase in order to cut the grass to make it look perfect. Point number 3. Today's topic is the 4 phases of effort. Yes, it's levels to this shit. The third one is being good. So you try, and as you continue to try, you're probably going to be bad when you're first starting out. Maybe even after you first start out, you're still going to be bad at it, no matter how much time you put in. Well, after a considerable amount of time, you may still be bad. Eventually, you're going to keep trying, and then you're going to actually start to be good. The definition of good means having the qualities required for a particular role. In other words, you become adequate. In other words, you become useful enough. All right, you can at least be as good as the average when you're good. That's what good means, having the qualities required for a particular role. So if someone said, all right, you go to a job interview and somebody says, all right, you have the qualities required for this role as secretary or as janitor or as vice president. All they're saying is, all right, you're acceptable. All right, you are about average. You are good enough that if we looked at a whole bunch of people, the average of all of them would look just like you. All right, that's all good means. All right, good doesn't mean you're excelling. It doesn't mean that you're above a whole bunch of other people. It just means you have the necessities. You have the bare necessities to do whatever it is that we're talking about here. Being good is the third stage of the game. This is where you now have some skills and you are producing some results. Maybe you are even garnering some recognition for your work. You can be good. You can garner recognition just for being good at what you do. Just having the qualities required for a role. If you're disciplined enough in it, maybe you're getting some recognition. Maybe it feels good to you because now you have some positive momentum working in your favor. We're going to be talking about momentum a couple episodes coming up. To get to this level of being good, you have to have the discipline to work through the frustrations and the failures that come with being bad. Only way you become good is to go through being bad, and it's going to be frustrating to be bad. There are going to be failures that you go through in being bad. Now, you're going to try to show that you're good at some points, and then you're going to realize that maybe you're not ready to show that you're good because you're just not there yet. You may think that you're there and then realize that you're not there. So this is the athlete who you train and you work on your game a whole lot, and you think, I'm ready for a match. I'm ready for a competition. I'm ready to go against somebody who is supposed to be a level above me, and you want to prove yourself. Then you go against that person or that team, and they kick your ass and send you right back to the trying phase all over again. These are the frustrations that you may go through. or you want to call that a failure. The failures that you're going to go through when you're in the bad phase trying to get to the good phase. You may not know quite yet when you get to that good point. When I was playing high school basketball, I didn't make my high school varsity team till my senior year. I only played that 1 year. We didn't even have a JV at my school. And that year that I played varsity, I basically sat the bench. I really sat varsity. I can't even say I played varsity. I sat varsity. I averaged 2 points a game as a senior in high school. But that summer, after high school graduation, that summer after the season was over, that's when I finally felt, for the first time in my life, I felt like I was good at basketball. And how I defined good for me was that I felt like that summer that I could go to any park or any gym, any court, anywhere, and I knew that I could play with whoever you put me in the gym with. And the way I got that experience is because I went against a whole bunch of other players who were much more good than me, and I held my own. I was not the best player in that gym, might have been the worst player in that gym, but I was holding my own against a whole bunch of players who were all head and shoulders above me. I was playing in this league called the Sunny Hill League in Philadelphia, PA. Any of you who's from Philly or the tri-state area involved in the basketball world, you know about the Sunny Hill League, one of the most famous youth leagues out there. And I played on a team in that league that had all the best players in the city on the same team. And I would practice with these guys. And I was holding my own. And that told me, you know what? I am now officially good at basketball. I'm not better than any of these dudes in here. There's 30 people in here. I'm probably number 30 in terms of rankings. But I can hold my own. All right. I don't look like I don't belong in the gym. That's when I knew that I was good. But I had to go through the frustrations and the failures of not making the team on my high school, sitting the bench as a senior in high school. I mean, everybody knows that I was a senior. Everybody in the stands knew, like, Dre, he's the senior. Why is he not getting in the game? But the sophomores are getting in. The juniors are getting in. He's not getting in the game. And I had to go through that. I had to go through lacking the skills or lacking the ability to perform and not getting the chance to perform. And when you see so many people who are just better than you, while you're continuing to do your work, it can be hard to keep doing your work. It can be hard to keep showing up every day when you see people who maybe it looks like they're not working as hard as you. Maybe they are the people ridiculing you. Maybe they're getting way more opportunity than you. Maybe it seems like things come way easier to them than they come to you, but you still got to keep showing up, doing the work. That's hard for people to do. That's a mental challenge for a whole lot of people. And let me tell you a secret that is hiding in plain sight, ladies and gentlemen. This is the reason why most people quit, because they're just not willing to do the work when it seems like they're the only one who's struggling. Seems like they're the only one who's failing. Seems like they're the only one who things are hard for. And this is why most people quit, because most people are followers. Most people want to know that what they're doing is the same thing that everybody else is doing. So this is why most people live their lives as lambs, as sheep, because they want to know that whatever they're doing, everybody else is doing. If you can free yourself from these shackles of following what everybody else is doing and thinking that your experience needs to be mirrored by a whole bunch of other people to make sense, then you can do things that'll make you stand out. And I have an episode coming up very soon. We're going to be talking about that very concept of, first of all, working through these failures and frustrations, even if you're the only one you see going through it, doing it anyway. And when you see so many people who are getting the opportunities that you're not, it's not as easy as it sounds. But if you get the Mirror of Motivation, the book that I talk about here every single day, you can get it for free. I've already paid for the book. All you got to do is go to mirrorofmotivation.com. Tell me where to ship the book. Anywhere in the world, we will ship that book to you physically. And that will be your primer to help you get through those rough days, because there will be some rough days when you're going from trying to being bad, even bad, to being good. And even when you're good, you're still going to go through some rough days. Again, this is a renewable resource. Skill is renewable. It must be renewed. Now, not you have an option to renew. You must renew it in order to maintain it. So once you become good, you don't just stop. You have to keep working to stay good. And if you want to go to the next level, you're going to have to work a whole lot more. For you, those of you who are exceptional, there is one more step. Now, for those of you who are average, those of you who just want to be okay in life, you can stop listening right now. Or you can cut off this episode. I gave you everything that you need. So I'm going to pause so they can turn it off. And then we'll move on to point number 4 for those who want the extra. All right, so all the average are out of the room. Now, we're moving on to point number 4. The topic, once again, today is the 4 levels of effort. Yes, there's levels to this shit. Level 1 is to try. Level 2 is to be bad at what you're doing. Level 3 is to be good. Level 4 for the exceptional people, people who want to go further, people who want to do the extra credit. Here's level 4, is being great. The definition of great is at a level considerably above the normal or the average. Now, I want you to notice, listen to that definition again. I want you to notice the difference between the two definitions of good and great. Good is defined as having the qualities required for a particular role. In other words, acceptable. Good means acceptable. The definition of great is at a level considerably above the normal or the average. That means you're upstairs from the good. Good is on level 2, or we can say level 3 to align with what we're talking about here. Great is on level 4. All right, if you're good, you can't just walk up the stairs to level 4. You got to earn your way up there. All right, there's a security guard at the door. And if you don't know the password, you ain't getting it. Good means acceptable. Great means exceptional. Let me say that again, in case you didn't hear the difference between the two words. Good means acceptable. Great means exceptional. Acceptable means, okay, we can put you in here with the masses, with everybody else, and you will blend in. That's what acceptable means. Exceptional means, all right, we have a rule, we have a norm, we have the average, we have the masses over here, but you are an exception to those. You're going to be over here. You're an exception. You're not like the rest of them. That's what great means. To be exceptional, ladies and gentlemen, you are going above and beyond mere capability. To be exceptional, you are doing extra. The work that is not required. The work that produces a return only if you do enough to truly differentiate yourself from the rest. Now, let me dive into that sentence that I just gave you there. To be exceptional, to be great, you're going to be doing some extra work. Actually, you're probably going to be doing a whole lot of extra work on a consistent basis. But understand this. The extra work that you're doing, the work alone does not guarantee that you will be an exceptional person. It does not guarantee that you'll be great. Doing extra work, let me say it again, just in case you didn't hear me. Doing extra work does not guarantee that you will be great. Doing extra work qualifies you to be great. It makes you eligible to be great. But the work that you do only makes you great if that work truly differentiates you from the people who are merely good. I want you to rewind that and listen to it over and over and over again until it's burned into your memory. Sometimes I'll have an athlete say to me, Dre, I work really hard at my sport, but I'm not getting anything back from my work. I'm not getting the opportunities on teams. I'm not making teams. I'm not getting into games. I'm not performing the way that I want to perform, even though I'm doing all this hard work. Well, I want you to understand something. That's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to do a whole lot of hard work and not get any returns on it. That's how it's supposed to be until you are clearly above everybody else who is merely good. See, if all you're doing is enough to be acceptable, that means you're part of the masses, you're part of the group, you're part of the norm, you're part of the average. You may or may not be chosen when you're part of the average. When you are good, understand something. There's a whole lot of other people who are just as good as you. Therefore, you are not entitled to be chosen because you're just good. Now, how many choices do I have? If I was looking for a good person to do some project with me, I'm just looking for somebody who's good. Now, I could choose anybody. It doesn't really matter. I can choose so many people who are good. I could close my eyes, cover my eyes, and do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Pick somebody. Good. You're good. Fine. All right, there's a million people just like you. So if you don't work out, I'll throw you away and do it again and pick somebody else, and they'll be just as good as you. When you are good, you could or could not be chosen. When you're great, people have no choice but to choose you. Actually, when you're great, you choose yourself, and people don't have a choice but to pay attention and pay other things too. When you are clearly above the others that are merely good, that's when you're great. And when I say clearly above, understand what I mean by that. Let me explain that one out. Being clearly above people who are merely good means you don't have to tell people that you're better than them. Let me say that one more time. When you are great at what you do, that means you are clearly a level above the people who are merely good, which means you don't have to tell them that you're better than them. You don't have to articulate that you are at a higher level. You don't have to let anybody know about all the hard work you do. Why? Because all of these things will be obvious. It will be obvious you're at a higher level. It will be obvious that you probably put more work in. It will be obvious that there's a difference between you and all these other individuals in here. Episode 1217, Virtual Mentors, talked about Michael Jordan. He said before 1992 NBA Finals, when he was going to be matched up with a counterpart by the name of Clyde Drexler, he said, I wanted to make sure everyone understood there's a clear difference between me and Clyde Drexler. Michael Jordan was saying what I just explained to you. He wanted everyone to know that even though Clyde was very good, Michael was great. And he didn't want to say it out loud. He didn't want to explain it. He didn't want to write it out in a long Instagram caption. He wanted it to be proof positive just from you watching the games. And any of you know what happened in 1992 NBA Finals. I think he accomplished that. Now, if you want to prove that you're great, all right, here's the first thing you need to do. Stop talking. And I'm pausing on purpose there. I'm demonstrating to you what you need to do. And then you need to put that work in. And your performance needs to reflect how you feel. Your performance needs to reflect how you feel, not your words. Nobody wants to hear you talk. If you're great, it should be obvious. Everybody else should be saying it before you say it. You can say it to yourself, but you don't need to say it to the public. When you're great, the public will tell you. You don't have to tell them. Tony Robbins, he says what he calls outstanding. What I'm referring to as great, he calls it outstanding. Okay, he says at the outstanding level is only a little bit above those who are good, but the return on investment for being outstanding is 100 times more. You may only be 1% better than the people who are good, but that extra 1% better took a whole lot of effort, takes a whole lot of time, takes a whole lot of energy. This is what I'm saying here. Okay, I'm out of the Tony Robbins example, but the return on investment per Tony Robbins is 100 times more. In other words, a bunch of you who may not follow basketball too closely, you may not have any idea who Clyde Drexler is, but you know who Michael Jordan is. I don't have to explain. That's the difference. Clyde Drexler was very good. He's a Hall of Fame basketball player. He is a legend in basketball to people who know basketball. But people who don't know basketball may have never heard of Clyde. But people who never touched the basketball in their life, they've all heard of Jordan. See the difference? That's the difference between good and great. Now, if that's what you want to be, understand there's a huge investment that you have to make. And that investment does not guarantee that you'll become great. You got to keep making the investment until you become great. There's no contract. At least not a contract that guarantees you anything. It's a contract that requires things, but it guarantees you nothing. You in? Most people are not in on that. Now, everybody's in on it when they're talking about it. Everybody's nodding their head yes right now while you're listening to me talk, but don't talk me to death. If you want to know what somebody's about, don't listen to their mouth, watch their feet. You have to put in the extra work to get there, that greatness, without a guarantee that putting in the extra work is going to get you there. That's the deal. That's the offer that's being made to you. There is no negotiation. You can't come back with a counter offer. That's just what it is. There was a Nike commercial years ago. This had to be maybe 15, 20 years ago, maybe even longer than that. It was Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods said he was going over, you could hear his voice, and they were showing a B-roll footage of Tiger playing golf and training. This is when Tiger Woods was dominating sports, period. And one of the things that he said was, listen, when it comes to my golf game, I get the best trainers, the best coaches. I do the best workouts. I put in the most work. I put in the most time. I wear the best golfing gear, and I use the best golfing equipment. And that best golfing equipment in the world happens to be Nike equipment, because Tiger was a Nike athlete. But if that changes and the best golfing equipment in the world is no longer Nike equipment, I will no longer be using Nike equipment. And these are my terms, and they are non-negotiable. That was a commercial. And it was a Nike commercial. So it was Nike's way, a backhanded way of saying, Tiger Woods demands the best golfing equipment out there because he's the best golfer in the world. And guess what? The best stuff is our stuff. But what Tiger was saying in that commercial was, I'm going to use whatever the best is. And if y'all stop being the best, I'm gone. And I'm not negotiating on it. Y'all can't tell me that I got to stay here. I don't care what the contract says. Because I am the best and I demand the best. That's what greatness is saying to you. If you want to be the best, you got to do all these things, and greatness guarantees you nothing. It promises you nothing. Are you willing to make that investment? We'll see. Let's recap the topic today, which is the 4 steps of effort. Yes, there are levels to this shit. Number 1, you got to try. Can't achieve anything if you don't begin with some effort. Trying even if and when you don't know what you're doing or how it will work out, if at all. Many people don't want to go through the trying stage because everybody tries to make themselves look good for the public these days. So are you willing to even try something even if you don't know it's going to work? Level 2, being bad. This is another stage people want to avoid. Unless you are supremely talented or incredibly lucky, when you're just starting out, you'll probably be, as we say in Philly, you'll probably be garbage at what you're doing. You will probably suck. And that's all right, because everyone who becomes notable has to start somewhere. And the thing is, again, in this era of everyone broadcasting their highlights, a lot of people don't want to show that they suck at what they're doing because all you see is everybody else's highlights. So you are a victim of it and you're guilty of it at the exact same time. Point number 3, be good. This is the third level, is good. Definition of good is having the qualities required for a particular role. In other words, you are acceptable when you're good. This is the third stage of the game where you have some skills, maybe even producing some results, maybe even getting some recognition for your work. It feels good to get recognition, to have some positive momentum working in your favor. But at this point, you still must have the discipline to work through the frustrations and the failures of being bad to even get to the point of being good. And then you got to keep working after you become good. And when you're seeing so many people who are better than you while you're getting from bad to good, while continuing to do your work, it's not as easy as it sounds when you're talking about it. The mirror of motivation will help you with that. But this step is usually as far as people go. So if you want to be exceptional, then keep listening. If you don't, cut it off right here. I told you everything you need to know. Point number 4, the fourth level is being great. Definition of great is a level considerably above the normal or the average. Look at the definition of good versus the definition of great. And the difference between the two comes down to simple words. Good means acceptable. Great means exceptional. To be exceptional, you are above and beyond just being capable. You are doing extra. This is work that is not required, and it only produces a return on investment if you do enough of that work to truly differentiate yourself from everyone else. And there is no guarantee that doing the extra work is going to make you great. Are you going to do that work? With no guarantees that you're going to get anything back. Most people say they will, but you watch most people's actions and they do not. Athletes will say something like, I work really hard, but I'm not getting anything back, as if they're owed something just because you worked hard. Listen, hard work is your entry fee, ladies and gentlemen, in anything you do, sports, business, anything. It is your entry fee. It does not guarantee you a damn thing. If you want to be outstanding, you want to be great, you want to stand out from everybody else, you must do the work that makes it clear that you are better than the people who are merely good without you having to say a word. If people can't tell just by looking at you and looking at your work and experiencing what you deliver, then you got more work to do. And if you're not willing to do that more work, then listen, just get comfortable being good. It's okay. You can be good along with everybody else who's good, but if you want to stand out, you want to call your own shot, then you got to do the extra work that will make you great. When that happens, it's amazing. But you got to be willing to do the work to get there. And it's not as easy as it sounds. Work on your game. Dre all day.